Think about the last time you bought a used car. You probably didn't just look at that shiny paint job and take the seller's word that it ran perfectly, right? No, you asked for the Carfax, you wanted verified data, a documented history, actual proof that what you were buying was exactly what it claimed to be. Well, when it comes to the global timber and forestry industry, investors and consumers face the exact same problem. A company can easily claim their wood products are green or eco-friendly, but how do we actually know for sure? Today in this explainer, we're looking at the equivalent of that Carfax, but for the world's forests. So, how do you prove a forest is actually sustainable? We're going to put on our financial detective hats today to understand exactly how investors verify a company's claims. We aren't looking at glossy marketing brochures here. We're investigating a very specific, strict reporting standard set out by the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB. Specifically, we're decoding metric RRFM160A1. This is the absolute bedrock of how forestry companies must transparently report on their third-party certifications. Here is our audit checklist for today. 1. Verifying sustainable forestry. 2. Calculating the certified area. 3. The Big Four certifications. 4. Rules for non-certified lands. And 5. Suspensions and terminations.
Let's jump right into part 1, verifying sustainable forestry.
Forests are just so much more than just timber factories. According to the industry standard we're looking at today, forests provide immense ecosystem services. We're talking about crucial things like carbon sequestration, water purification and storage, soil formation, and wildlife habitat. Extracting timber creates massive operational risks. Imagine a multi-million-dollar logging operation grinding to an absolute halt overnight just because of a single endangered species violation, or getting hit with a catastrophic fine for damaging a local watershed. That's exactly the kind of regulatory and reputational risk that investors are absolutely terrified of. So to mitigate those risks and to actually prove they're managing these lands responsibly, companies increasingly rely on third-party certifications. The SASB standards, which actually fall under the International Sustainability Standards Board, require companies to lay all of these certifications out on the table. Moving on to part 2, calculating the certified area. The bedrock of this metric is raw, quantifiable data. Under metric RR-FM16A.1, a company must disclose the total area of forest land that is certified to a third-party standard. And they can't use vague, fluffy terms like a significant portion. No way. They must report this strictly in hectares. And here's the kicker. This scope doesn't just cover land the company owns outright. It includes all forest lands owned, leased, or actively managed by the entity. A company absolutely cannot hide behind third-party contractors. If they're operating on it, they have to account for it. But, raw numbers aren't enough to give investors the full picture. Companies also have to report the exact percentage of their total certified land that falls under each specific management standard. And here is the truly genius part of the SASB standard. They are strictly forbidden from double counting. Imagine our financial detective finds a company with a 1,000-hectare forest that happens to be certified by 2 different environmental boards. Well, they can't report 2,000 hectares of sustainable land just to inflate their numbers. They report 1,000 and specifically note the overlap by disclosing the percentage of hectares that hold more than one certification. This keeps the true physical footprint honest, ensuring the data reflects real sustainable practices, not just an inflated stack of certificates.
All right, part 3, the Big Four certifications.
Because let's be honest, a certification is really only as good as the organization standing behind it. These are the Big Four global standards recognized directly within the SASB document. First, we have the American Tree Farm System, or ATFS, which is highly U.S.-centric. Then there's the Forest Stewardship Council, FSC, and the Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification, PEFC, both of which have massive global footprints. And finally, the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, or SFI. When a company calculates its percentages, it must show exactly how much land is certified under these specific, rigorous third-party organizations or their direct equivalents. And listen, these organizations aren't just out there wandering around counting tree trunks. To get that coveted stamp of approval from the FSC or the SFI, a company must prove they harvest in a highly sustainable manner. Are they rigorously maintaining legal compliance? Are they actively respecting indigenous land rights? Are they maintaining good community relations and protecting local water sources? It is a comprehensive, deep dive audit of how a company interacts with both the earth and the people living near their operations. Which brings us to part 4. Rules for non-certified lands. This leads us to a massive question, right? What happens if a forest isn't certified? Do companies just get a free pass to do whatever they want in those areas without reporting it? Absolutely not.
The standard actually anticipates this loophole and closes it tight. For any non-certified forest lands owned, leased, or managed by the entity, the company is required to provide a detailed description of their forestry management practices. It basically acts as a secondary internal audit. They must detail their management plans, enforce them through disclosed inspections, and cite their underlying sources. For example, if they use guides like ASTM D7480, which is essentially just a standard baseline guide for evaluating forestry properties, investors get to see that framework, even without the official badge.
The level of detail they're prompted to discuss here is honestly incredible. It goes way beyond basic harvesting. They are prompted to report on their use of chemicals and genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. They have to detail their water discharges. It even extends to social criteria, such as their aesthetics, recreation management, and crucial community involvement, like their direct interactions with indigenous communities. So even on non-certified land, the veil of secrecy is completely lifted.
Finally, Part 5, Suspensions and Terminations.
So, what happens when a company breaks the rules? If a company fails to meet a standard or fails to resolve a major nonconformity, their certification isn't just quietly paused. It's involuntarily suspended or terminated. Under this SASB metric, they must reveal exactly which certification they lost, calculate the exact hectares of land stripped of its status, and, most importantly, publish the exact reason the certification body suspended them in the first place. There is literally nowhere to hide this failure.
But it's not all doom and gloom. The reporting standard does offer a clear path for redemption. Along with the bad news, the entity is given the opportunity to discuss any relevant corrective actions they've taken in response to the suspension or termination. This is fantastic for investors because it allows them to judge not only the severity of the operational failure, but also the management team's agility, optimism, and actual commitment to fixing the underlying problem and regaining compliance.
So the next time you look at a solid wood dining table, a new hardwood floor, or even a simple room of printer paper, ask yourself, does the company behind that product open its books to this level of scrutiny? Because just like that used car we talked about, a shiny, eco-friendly sticker doesn't actually mean much without the verified data to back it up. By understanding metric RRFM 168.1, we see that true sustainability is measured in carefully audited hectares, tracked through rigorous standards like FSC and SFI, and maintained through mandatory transparency. What kind of track record is hiding in the wood products you buy every day?